Dr. Jacobo Grinberg's name is wrapped in mystery and intrigue. The man was a psychologist who didn't just dabble in classic experiments on perception or behavior. He went headfirst into the far edges of consciousness research. Some say he managed to figure out how we, as conscious beings, might actually be creating the reality we see around us, rather than just watching it pass by. And then, in December of 1994, not long after he supposedly made this groundbreaking discovery, he straight up disappeared. Gone. Poof. No trail, no records of his last whereabouts, no official documents left behind. The authorities never confirmed a body, and those who tried to find him came up empty-handed. It feels like some X-Files scenario, right? The story's got everything. Possible CIA meddling, whispers about secret research, and claims of bridging quantum physics and ancient shamanism. But before we jump into the rumors, let's rewind a bit and explore what Dr. Grinberg was actually doing. Because that's really what makes this tale so fascinating. It wasn't just that he disappeared. It's the nature of his research that made so many people latch on to conspiracy theories. Grinberg's background was in psychology. However, unlike a lot of academics, he wasn't content with running the same old memory tests or personality studies. He wanted to go deeper, way deeper, into the roots of consciousness itself. In simpler terms, he was asking, what is this thing we call the mind, and could it possibly shape the physical world around us? To anyone hearing it for the first time, it may sound like he was dabbling in pseudoscience, but Grinberg was no hack. He built on theories proposed by well-known physicists, especially David Bohm, who championed something called the implicate order. Bohm suggested that reality behaves more like a hologram. Everything is interconnected beneath the surface, even if we see things as separate in everyday life. Grinberg took this concept a step further. He believed in what he called the lattice, an informational matrix that underpins everything we perceive as the physical universe. Think of it like an invisible web connecting all points in space and time. According to Grinberg, our brains don't just passively interpret signals from the outside world. They actively connect with this lattice, decoding reality into the form we see. So, how exactly did Grinberg think we interact with this invisible matrix? He introduced the concept of syntergy, a blend of synthesis, combining things, and energy. The idea here is that our consciousness isn't a separate entity locked in our heads. It's in direct communication with the fundamental field underlying space-time. It's like logging onto a cosmic Wi-Fi, except instead of just downloading data, we're also uploading our intentions and perceptions, thereby shaping the code of reality in real time. Now, if that sounds like a big leap, remember that quantum physics already hints that observers play a key role in how experiments turn out. The famous double-slit experiment suggests that mere observation can shift particles from behaving like waves to behaving like particles. Grinberg just pushed this line of thinking further, suggesting that intent or focused thought could actually have a tangible effect on the physical world. One of the things that set Grinberg apart was his willingness to learn from people far outside mainstream science. He spent time studying shamans in Mexico, healers, seers, and wise folk who, according to centuries of reports, could do things that looked impossible, like reading without eyes or healing illnesses by channeling energy. Now, let's be honest, it's easy to write off these tales as superstition or illusions. But Grinberg approached them with a researcher's curiosity. He measured brainwave patterns of people claiming to have these abilities. He watched how they entered specific mental states, often through meditation, chanting, or rituals, and tried to figure out what, if anything, was really happening neurologically. His findings? There seemed to be evidence, admittedly controversial, that when two individuals meditated together, their brain patterns could sync up. He called this phenomenon transferred potential, TP. Basically, two brains started firing in unison without any direct physical exchange of information. This calls to mind the concept of non-locality in quantum mechanics, where particles can be entangled and affect each other instantly, no matter how far apart they are. Combine those telepathy experiments with Bohm's holographic worldview, and you get a picture that makes our reality seem more like the Matrix than we might be comfortable admitting. Grinberg's stance was that all of us, every single person, might be taking part in shaping a collective reality. The lattice is there, waiting to be influenced, if only we realize our potential. In everyday life, we assume that we're individuals observing a universe that's already set in stone. But if Grinberg was right, we're participants. Our thoughts, emotions, and intentions might echo out into the cosmos or the lattice, helping mold the very blueprint of the physical world. That's an enormous claim, and it's no surprise it stirred a ton of skepticism. Mainstream scientists argued there wasn't enough hard evidence, or that his methods weren't rigorous. But there were also many who found his theories mind-blowingly brilliant, or at least worth exploring further. So that brings us to December 8th, 1994. According to various accounts, Grinberg had just made or was about to make a major announcement about his research. Whatever it was apparently so groundbreaking that it might have toppled some established ways of thinking. Then he disappears. His home was found in perfect order, his laboratory cleared out, and any notes or recorded data gone. Family members didn't see him leave. Colleagues had no clue, and authorities found no leads. Now, if this is true, documents do suggest he vanished, but details are murky. It's not shocking that folks started weaving conspiracy theories. Some said the CIA whisked him away to keep his reality-altering ideas under wraps or harness them for secret programs. Others speculated a rival or group of rivals might have abducted him to gain his knowledge. And a more far-out, but still popular idea, is that he literally transcended this physical dimension, proving his own theory by dissolving into the lattice. A more grounded explanation might be that he had personal or financial reasons to disappear. Maybe he burned out from the academic grind or faced pressures we don't know about. With no conclusive evidence, though, the official story remains unsolved. Still, that cryptic line from one of his final papers, "When you understand how the lattice works, you may simply disappear," definitely doesn't help calm the speculation. Why should we care about all this? Let's be real, not everyone's going to buy into the idea that your brain can warp reality. But even if you're skeptical, consider that modern physics has already told us matter is mostly empty space, quantum fields underlie everything, and observation might affect outcomes on a fundamental level. Grinberg's theories might not be as outlandish as they sound at first. The possibility that our minds play an active role in shaping our experiences is exhilarating and also kind of daunting. If we're not just passive observers, does that mean we hold responsibility for what unfolds around us? Do our negative thoughts or fears feed into the lattice, shaping a negative world? By the same token, could a collective focus on moral or spiritual values actually transform reality in some measurable way? That might sound like a stretch, but if there's even a sliver of truth to it, it could really rock our worldview. Grinberg's work with shamans is especially intriguing because many of us in the modern world have written off indigenous spiritual knowledge as outdated or superstitious. But from a conservative standpoint, there's something to be said about tradition and the value of ancient wisdom passed down through generations. While I'm not advocating we all drop everything and start chanting around campfires, maybe there's a reason these shamanic cultures have long talked about worlds beyond the physical or the power of intention to heal. At the same time, a lot of religious traditions, particularly in Christianity, teach the power of prayer, the laying on of hands for healing, and miracles. Some folks today see these as purely symbolic. But if Grinberg was onto something, there might be a tangible mechanism behind such events. The harnessing of conscious intention to tap into the lattice. Of course, that doesn't prove anything outright, but it sure reframes spiritual practices in an interesting light. Now, to address the big elephant in the room, the CIA rumors. Agencies all over the world have historically been interested in anything that could give them a strategic advantage, whether it's the classic remote viewing programs or more advanced studies on mind control. If Grinberg's research truly showed we could manipulate reality, you can imagine how governments might want to either keep it secret or see how to exploit it. We don't have proof that's what happened, but it's not an outlandish guess given history. For some folks, though, the notion that a government agency can swoop in and silence a scientist also taps into bigger concerns about who controls our knowledge. We've heard cases where patents vanish or innovators get threatened because their discoveries threaten big industries, like if someone found a cheap, renewable energy source that cut out the need for oil. Grinberg's theories might threaten fundamental understandings of the world, as well as the entire structure of power that relies on us believing in a fixed, objective reality. If people truly realized they could shape their own outcomes more directly, that might be a game changer. What do we do with all this information now? Grinberg hasn't been found, and much of his work seems lost. But fragments of his theories and experiments live on, whispered in the corners of alternative science circles and consciousness researchers. His name pops up from time to time in conversations about telepathy, the holographic universe, or how collective intention might influence everything from random number generators to global events. Whether you think Grinberg was a genius, a madman, or a victim of foul play, one fact remains. He challenged us to ask bigger questions about what it means to be human. If consciousness is as potent as he believed, then each of us is far more powerful than we imagine. It means we're not just cogs in a cosmic machine. We might be co-creating the machine as we go. So, was Dr. Jacobo Grinberg snatched away by covert operatives, murdered for his knowledge, or did he literally ascend out of our reality? We might never know for sure. But the story forces us to confront some fascinating possibilities. Could our thoughts shape reality? Is reality itself more like a malleable hologram than the rigid material world we assume? Regardless of the official truth or the conspiracy-laden one, his life's work raises a stirring point. Maybe we've underestimated ourselves and each other for centuries, dismissing ancient rituals, scoffing at spiritual insights, and ignoring glimpses from quantum experiments. If consciousness does have the power to interact with space-time, then we've only scratched the surface of our own capabilities. Dr. Grinberg's disappearance remains one of the oddest cold cases in modern science, highlighting how precarious cutting-edge research can be. Whether he was taken against his will, destroyed by his own experiments, or stepped into some other dimension, the key takeaway is that the world might be far weirder and more wonderful than we currently believe. And that's a truth that can inspire us to keep asking questions, pushing boundaries, and staying open to the possibility that our minds aren't just lumps of matter in a meaningless universe. Maybe, just maybe, we're the architects of a far greater reality.